what I want you to put in your mind for a second, and I'm going to not take so long. I've taken sometimes an hour on explaining this, and there's so much that could be said, but essentially it's this. If you could be what you wanted to be, what would you be in your lifetime? Would you want to continue on and live the golden years, as they call them, the way that they are, and live like 95% of the people retire at or below the poverty level, and your health degenerates at a rate of 8 to 10% about every 10 years? So when you get down to, you're getting close to 70, you've lost 40% or so of the body mass that you had when you're 25. You see people with skin on bones, hair's thin, eyesight's bad, hearing's gone or going or poor, with all that kind of thing. Fingernails aren't growing. The muscles have shrunk and deteriorated. The brain size has shrunk with it, and certainly not functioning with memory or cognizance or ability or any of those kinds of things. In fact, there's nothing on you that's working the way it was or once did. So what would you want to be? Would you like to be a new you? Would you like to return to those days of yesteryear, as they used to talk about in the Lone Ranger TV show, return to the days of yesteryear? Well, we can't go back in time, but one thing we can do is our body can grow younger now because of the amazing discoveries that have been made. No longer is it the only option, or no option, and that you're going to live longer and grow older. Now you can live longer and grow healthier and younger, and this is a theory, and I say theory because we haven't tested on humans, but these ingredients are enormously powerful, well-tested clinical studies, and they go back a long, long time. And some of those go back even as early as the Yellow Emperor's book, which was published in China about 5,000 years ago. Now, the gentleman that was talking about, he is really quite a famous person, at least in China. And there was a documentary. How his article came was there was a documentary on him, and it's Lai Ching Luan is his name, and he was an emperor's physician. So he just wasn't a person that was a herbalist. He lived in the emperor's the Forbidden City, the Ming Dynasty emperors, for a long time. In the last years, of course, he was out living in a small village, but he lived 256 years. His predecessor, who taught him all of this, was called Ming Chengzu, and excuse me, that was the emperor, was Ming Chengzu. That was the second emperor of the Ming Dynasty, and during that, and these names, they won't mean anything to you, but Lai Shizhen was the original one that came up with the same formulation that he and Lai Chen developed together, and he lived 239 years, and of course, Lai Ching, he lived 256 years. Now, Lai Shizhen was born probably 50, 75 years, can't remember the exact date for him. So there's very two long lifespans linked together. I found out about it in 1988 when somebody came from China, had been there, a Korean, and they were excavating Ming Chengzu, the second emperor of China's tomb, and in his sarcophagus was the formulation. He was what they called a Taoist. Taoists are a group of people in China who believe it's possible to have longevity and live virtually forever. Now that we're more scientific in this world, we've lost a lot of fundamental knowledge, but the basic things are still true. And now the old knowledge is now becoming the new science, and this is what the A.G.E pill is all about. So they developed some formulations on concentrating some extracts, which went back probably through 4,000 years, a history of some of these, of evolutionary history and the development of natural medicines. And this is the philosophy the Chinese had, and they still have it today, other than even their regular medicine has this, because they're very adept and adroit when it comes to understanding that pharmaceutical drugs, yes, they have, and modern medicine has a purpose, but in nature there's much more, and the body is much more compatible with what's in nature. Well, we're not talking about just compatibility. What we're talking about is what the ancient Chinese said, and they said a human being has the ability to live very healthy for a great length of time if they remove the toxins and the waste, and they provide the right types of nutrients, and we're talking about super nutrients, colossally powerful, effective, natural medicines extracted from nature. So let's go back and say that again. They said you can live I'll say it shorter, you can live for a long length of time in great health if you remove the toxins and the waste. Where's that from? The body. And you provide the nutrients so the biological functions can operate at their most efficient way. And that's where we are right now with this. I went to China. I found out about in 88, went there in 89, was able to negotiate with the Chinese government, get the product produced for me. They wouldn't give me the formula, but they gave me the product was produced, and I bottle it and capture for my previous company. Very effective formula, but it wasn't the only one they were using. There was one that was above all others, and they called that Chin Chin Bao. Bao means treasure. But there were some other ones that were with it. But the Chinese government was keeping a lot of that pretty secret, but they needed the trade in 1988, so I cut a deal with them, and they sent that formula. And I noticed within weeks I was sleeping less, I had a lot less fatigue, and stamina was greatly increased, and it was self-evident to me. And I'm not one that believes in stuff that doesn't work, and because I want it to work, I am subject to the placebo effect. I'm not that. I have to see evidence. So I did saw that worked, and so I worked and developed that, and then I brought another one to it called the Emperor's Formula that I called, and it's from a previous company. And I tried to hit as close to that as I could, and I think I was doing fairly well. But then, of course, the old company started Sisel here a number of years ago, and I've been, of course, it's always been there with, and Eternity was one of the ingredients, in Eternity was one of those in that ancient formulation. So as Harvard Medical School made it famous, I already knew about it and had been using it in my previous company, so I just took the science I had and made Eternity. It was a little more technical because science is more intricately involved in even at the molecular level and the cellular level that the Chinese never could be. So we brought out Eternity, started working with that, and then there was a couple of other things that were involved with it, and one of those is TSX, and the ingredients from astragalus root extract, which is cycloastragalone triglyceride 4. You don't need to know those things, but you can look them up if you want some expertise. But they would rebuild the telomeres, and or support the rebuilding of the telomeres is the way we have to say it. And the telomeres is really your biological time clock. You have a DNA that can run for about 150 years if you have enough telomeres to keep duplicating cells. That's part of it. But if you have a lot of decay, a lot of damage, and not the nutrients that's necessary to run it, then you're going to live longer, but your health is going to decline more. But now what we can do is we found, and actually Harvard Medical School back on it again, and MIT and a couple of others have been looking at some compounds that were extraordinary. And but these compounds I knew about. In fact, the first time I was really onto a specific isolate of one of these natural ingredients was about 12 years ago, and I started, but nothing available, couldn't buy it, couldn't do it, but I saw what they were doing in animal studies, and they were so impressive, and now it's come into bloom. It's not into full bloom, it's expensive to make, but the biological potential of it is enormous, and we produce it all in our bodies. We produce lots of it when we're younger, and as we get older, it goes with less and less and less. And all that has to do with the degradation that occurs once we're grown. At conception, we're one cell. When we're born, as a baby, we're 10 trillion cells. When we're about 25, we're 100 trillion cells. And so that tremendous duplication rate is regeneration. You're always losing cells. Skin cells for young people, lose it in 30 days. In older people, it's 4 to 5 months with it because everything's slowed down so much. But when everything's running and growing and you're producing more cells than what you're losing, you're actually getting bigger, stronger, healthier, and you're going to live longer. But when you become sort of expendable after 25 and those processes start slowing down, some even shut off, and then your body goes into this long glide, at least we thought it was, to where the average age is about 75 when most people die. Now today I just published on some athletes that died much younger than that, and athletes do die younger than the average people because their biology is so damaged by the oxidation from all the exercise, the oxidative stress that damages their whole system. But the most important thing that gets damaged in your body is the most important thing in your body, and that's your stem cells. They create everything. You have stem cells for any type of structure or tissue you have, be it for fingernails or for eyelashes or for the brain or the heart or the kidneys or anything. They're made from stem cells. They're differentiated to produce different types of organs. That happens as we grow and through birth, and they just keep going on top of it. So stem cells, your body would wear out very quickly if once you got to 25 or to a certain point, then you didn't regenerate and didn't repair. And within 3 years, there'd be nothing left of you if there was none of that going on. So cellular regeneration is very important. But what happens with the cell, because of all the nutrients it takes in to produce something or to divide and make more new cells, which is what stem cells do, over a period of time, everything that goes into the cell, like the building materials, the proteins or new cells or whatever else they are, produce that. But the waste is excreted from the cell. But unfortunately, most of it goes, but a certain amount accumulates, and it accumulates every day over the years and things like that. And pretty soon your stem cells, which is really what's making you, are full of what they call lipofuscin, which is cellular sludge. It's the garbage that can't get out. Enzymes are breaking it down or trying to. They've broken down a lot that they got out, but these become compounded where the enzymes in the stem cells can't break them down efficiently. And then also with that's a lot of toxins, a lot of free radicals and heavy metals, and that accumulates in the sludge. So you're getting sludged up. It's like, I tell people, it's like your car engine. If you just added oil when you got low and never changed it, pretty soon your car engine would just be ruined because it'd be so full of sludge it couldn't function. So this one thing in this formula, it's more than a three-stage, but there's three main stages. And that which the Chinese said years before, that the human body has the ability to live to a great length of life if you remove the toxins and the waste and stimulate the regeneration below the degeneration, is what they're saying. That's exactly what we've got in this product. I found all of the things. Science is there. Much of this is ancient science, proven new, so the ancient wisdom has become the new science. And that's what the age pill is. There's nothing like it in the world from any company anywhere. There's a couple that have one of these ingredients they're talking about, and one of them that is becoming famous that NASA is calling the immortality pill. And it's just based on one ingredient. And this one ingredient that came out of Harvard was presented to NASA because they can't put a man on the moon, on Mars. The reason why is the solar radiation is so intense in space, it goes through the metal on the spaceship and space chutes and everything, and you're just like you're getting hit by millions of pinholes. So they said if we send an astronaut up for 5 months or 6 months, they come back 5 years later, and 100% of them will get cancer. But a moon mission is a short one compared to a mission to Mars. That's about a 5-year mission for time staying there and all that. And they said if we sent somebody to Mars, nobody would come back. They would be dead because just too much solar radiation. But now this one key ingredient, which goes right back into the beyond the Ming Dynasty and before them, these things that Lai Ching and Lai Shizhen both used with it, is the one they've been able to concentrate, is one of them. They've been able to concentrate, isolate, put high levels of it in, and when it goes into the stem cell is using it anyway, and what it does is puts a terrific increase in energy production within the cell, and regeneration starts picking up so fast that with the right amounts of it, NASA says the solar radiation that's damaging the astronauts can be repaired just about as fast as it happens. And so now we can send a person to Mars and they'll come back. They won't be any older, and they won't be any unhealthier, and they won't have chances of having cancer, where everybody that comes back after 5 months would have cancer in their lifetime. That all can be achieved because of regeneration. So that's the second phase we do. We remove the sludge, and then we go into this regenerative cycle. But the regenerative cycle is quite complex. There's a number of steps in it. And while I've seen a couple of companies using this one ingredient, and they're just starting to make it, they're not putting near enough in because it's quite expensive to get. But they're basing it on science. So their levels are just blips on the radar where it's a chart and it goes up. And so as I looked at that, I figured, well, and there's some big patents involved and things. So I went direct, and I got a company that I dealt with for many, many years to manufacture and extract this, because it wasn't such a difficult thing to do, but I had to have it done to where I could have it with an economy of scale, so I could put massive doses in, close to the maximum dosage, not the minimum dose that some effect was seen. Because what do you want? If you want to grow younger, you want to do it as quick as possible, don't you? And that's what I want too. So I built it on this one. But it goes through a whole number of stages after that. And to complete the cycle to where out of the stem cell comes, and out of the nucleus comes an energy that's created within the mitochondria, which is the energy engines of the cells. And there's hundreds of them in cytoplasm in your cells outside the nucleus. And that energy is called ATP. A lot of people know about that. And some people say, take coenzyme Q10 because it's the only thing that will increase ATP. Well, it's the only thing they knew of, but that's what a lot of coenzyme Q10, if you ever wondered about what they have, it does increase it, but nowhere near like these other products do. So when you put it together with coenzyme Q10, you might have a 20% increase in ATP, but with this product and this system, just this one ingredient alone puts it up to 200 to 400% more. And then from the science that I've done, and it's quite complex, but this is all happening within, everything's coming and gelling within the last 5 years or 10 at the very most. And so now I've been able to put the other steps into the formulation that greatly accelerates it so that it can produce through its own natural mechanisms with its own natural, high potent natural medicines. It can elicit tremendous amounts of ATP energy to be created, and then instead of just being gone and dissipated and lost, it gets recycled again and again. So what we put in goes so much further because we don't let it just be exhausted and discarded. We recycle it at another point with another molecule that has components that it just keeps exchanging with the exhausted ones. So now what does ATP do? Well, ATP, this is the process. ATP produces biological hydrogen. Hydrogen, the very thing we're talking about with our hydrogen water systems. That biological hydrogen is the most powerful atom in the universe or molecule. And it's what comes from the sun. It's why all grass grows. And animals eat grass, and we eat plants, and we eat animals, and that hydrogen gets passed along to us. There'd be no life on Earth if it wasn't for hydrogen. But it gets changed from hydrogen, from solar radiation, into chemical energy, and then in the stem cells they transport it around, creating different forms of energy, and then it gets up to ATP, which converts it back to hydrogen from the very beginning. So it makes a big cycle back to hydrogen. Then hydrogen, what it does is it has enormous power to convert again into electrical energy, and that's what really powers you. If you've seen children that have high levels of energy, and you see that with almost all of them, they run around, they don't tire, they recover fast, they'll run someplace and jump rather than skip, rather than just walk because they have so much electrical energy. It's because they have the same things in their body you do, they're just not worn out and they're producing at maximum levels. So what we're attempting to do with the A.G.E pill is take it back to that, so that the stem cells, which is really the most important thing in your body, can now start to repair and regenerate itself and to increase cell production that exceeds the degeneration or the loss of cells. There's a third factor that's involved there, and that's the mitochondria takes in, it's like a car engine, takes in gasoline, oxygen explodes, it creates energy. It's because of oxidation. Oxygen has enormous explosive power. When you have a fuel source like carbohydrate is, or a sugar, or in the case of gasoline, you have a carbon-based oil extract, it creates the energy to make the oxygen really go. So just like with a car, you have an exhaust pipe where carbon monoxide is created. It's oxidized, and so very dangerous, can kill you, cause all kinds of problems with that. You have the same thing happening in the cell. So the cells are designed to neutralize that, but as we get older, that damage starts to occur to even that ability. So you start aging faster and faster, so that when you're in your 70s, you hit 70 and you're averaging about 3 days of aging for every day that you live. And it's because of that degeneration that's occurred where you've lost 8-10% every day, every year, and it just accumulates up. And so pretty soon you can't function well. No wonder why. You've been broken down, decayed, and cells are full of sludge. And then the oxidation in the cells, as it oxidizes glucose, that's the gasoline-like substance in the mitochondria. As it oxidizes that, it creates an oxide with it, like carbon monoxide, only it's a glucose oxide, and that coats the proteins and in the cell and keeps them. It's like putting saran wrap over your mouth and your nose and trying to breathe, and so it just coats, and they call it sugaring. A lot of the proteins and the structures, so they can't follow the way they are. So if you look at an old cell, now it starts withering up. It loses size, loses volume. It's not clear any longer. It's a yellowish brown because of all the sludge, and things are not functioning, and it's putting out very few stem cells. Then some stem cells go dormant, and then some stem cells die off. And the mitochondria is just, it's been with you since birth in your stem cells, and those little engines just firing all the time to give you all the energy are burning out too. So we've removed the toxins, we've removed the waste, and now we're creating electrical energy on a very high level. So what else can we do? It's like having a car and the engine just will hardly run. It doesn't matter how nice you have everything else. If it won't run, that engine needs an overhaul, and it has the ability to do it. So some of these super nutrients in this complex formula go in and they feed this nutrition of where mitochondria are repairing themselves, but they're just too weak, become too weak and feeble to do it. And when you get a super charge of these super nutrients, then the mitochondria repair themselves, and it's like an engine overhaul, and the stem cells have the ability to do that. And then the other places where damage has occurred, even mutagenic damage on the DNA, can be repaired, and it is repaired. Normally, you get a lot, if you smoke cigarettes, for every 15 mutants that you get on DNA, the body corrects all but one of them. So the body has the ability to do it, or stem cells do, and so this can correct mutagens in the cells. It can take care of all the sludge, the oxidation, and then as the mitochondria, which have their own DNA, different than the nucleus, that as they become whole, they start producing a lot more energy, and we're putting a lot more AT to them. And then if you don't think it couldn't get any better than that, then there's compounds in, because the mitochondria can also reproduce, and they've just pretty well lost most of that ability. And now they go into wild reproduction rates, and those energy engines in the cell just start multiplying and adding and getting huge number and fresh new ones ready to go with all the old ones repaired and regenerated. And then the stem cells, because it takes so many to produce so much, a lot of them have become slow. Now they're all repaired and they're operating at full blast. But the ones that have become neutered, or they call it, as it goes into dormancy, they sit there for a while and then they die, and then there's some that died. But this product isn't over yet. It goes to the senescent, the dormant cells, and it brings them back to full life. And that old stem cell, which is is wrinkled and discolored and not functioning regenerates itself. This is all in the animal studies have been done, and they're doing them on humans right now, but every mammal, and the process is, they say, is exactly the same in all mammals, all animals, even reptiles, frankly. But anyway, with that, as that happens, now you have lots of new stem cells producing lots of energy, and all the repair is going on in the body, and the dormant cells come back to life. Shazam! There they are. They're back and they're repaired. They're regenerating. They'd just been idle because they could no longer function. And then the stem cells that have died, which science did not think could ever be regenerated, have now been proven to be able to regenerate new stem cells, perhaps more than you even had when you were younger, because this compound will just keep feeding the systems within it with the super nutrients to make more and more and more new cells. And so now your body is filling up with the cells that are indistinguishable, they say in the animal studies, from young cells. They lose that wrinkled discoloration, and it goes back to full and clear and functioning, and your electrical energy goes right up. Now, I saw how fast it would go up, and now we're seeing, I put it out, I was kind of disbelieving when I started feeling a strength coming into me. I could just feel the strength coming, and my energy levels were coming up, and I could feel they were coming up. But then I start seeing it all on Facebook and the postings, and how many people in a shorter period of time, even than I, were having big increases in energy and feeling great and sleeping better and all of those things. But this isn't like a supplement that you can sleep better and rest better and all that. This is massive regeneration on a scale like you were in your 20s again. And what they say on all the animals they study, and they're saying that's being true in the studies that they're doing on mankind, and now men and women, is that the regeneration rates of your body, and they test those by what they call biomarkers, biological markers or indicators, they return within just months to where you were when you were 20 years old again, in your 20s. Can you imagine that? I don't know where you're at. Are you 40, like to be 20? Are you 50, like to be 20? Are you 60, like to be in your 20s? Are you 70, like to be in your 20s? Yeah, I don't know if you go all the way back to 20s, but man, you're going the wrong way and going the wrong way fast. We can bring it to a dead stop and put you into warp drive, headed back for youth at a speed you thought was impossible. Well, you never thought it was possible anyway. This is as close to the fountain of youth of anything that has ever been discovered. This is the single greatest discovery, I believe, in the history of human health. And right now you have zero competition. Not an MLM company has it. Only a couple of companies are selling some, and they're selling only based on one ingredient, the one, and it's in such a minuscule amount. Yeah, it works. But what's the difference between driving a car 5 miles an hour and going 500 miles an hour? That's kind of what we're looking for with it. Not 500, but let's say 100, 150 miles an hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to put your body where the regeneration rate of cells is increasing below the ones that are being lost. As they're lost naturally, with it, you start having things happen to you. What? Let me just tell you what's happened in the animal studies. The vision that's gone bad or got very bad and blurry comes back. The sense of smell comes back. The hearing comes back. The brain size comes back. The functionality and memory and everything comes back. The hair that's gotten thin and gray and everything comes back. The leather on their skin and things like that comes back. The bone density comes back. The body mass, structure, muscles, organs, everything come back. And so when they did this, like on a mouse study, mice lived 2 years, and they started giving mice that were ready to die 2 years this one supplement, and they didn't die. And when they were about 4 years old, they tested them against a group of young mice that were like 4 and 5 months old, and they found that they couldn't mix them up because they were indistinguishable from young mice. But when they put the real old mice that were like over 3 years old, should have been dead over a year ago, when they put them on the treadmill, and the only difference between the young mice had the same feed, water, atmosphere, everything, but the older mice had been getting just this one ingredient. And so when they put them on the treadmill, they went 2 to 4 times farther and also exercise at a higher, faster rate for 2 to 4 times longer than the young mice. Now, what does that tell you we got? We have caught lightning in a bottle big time, and you haven't. This is the kind of product that will turn you back to where you want to be, and about everybody you know, it has that potential. It's based on theory, because you got to do studies, but FDA requires 15 years of studies. You want to wait, or you want it now? Because there's studies on the individual ingredients, and we're going to publish all of those for you to look at, and if you can connect the dotted lines, you'll see the A.G.E pill, formulation like no other. I think it's far superior to even what Lai Zhen and Liling developed themselves, and with that, we'll have a lifestyle, health, all of that. But it takes money to live that long, doesn't it? If you're living longer, where's the money going to come from? Well, it's from everyone around you. This is a potential to, the pricing is so reasonable, it's so easy to sell, the science is so great, the studies are there to talk about, the results are self-evident. Many people in 2 weeks feel the results. About everyone within 2 to 3 months. It's absolutely undeniable. Depends on how much deterioration they've had to overcome, but it seems, at least in the animal studies, to everyone. And we think the same thing with human studies. So here we got it. It's time to run. There's no one out there with a product that can compete with it in all of MLM, a little bit on the internet, but they're insignificant and they're not effective. This is enormously powerful. This is roller skates versus a Ferrari. That's the kind of thing this is in health, and we alone have it. So it's time to get your rear into really high gear, because you're going to grow a lot younger if you take this product. And I recommend that you double up for 3 months. They showed that in animal studies, and they just shot up fast in regeneration and younger, everything regenerating, repairing, and all of those things. And so it took about a 3 months till that body was really ready to go. But you're getting better all the time anyway. You were getting younger, but then it's just pushing it up there at a very rapid pace, and then wham, you're there, and you're going back in time, your body is, while time goes on, and you're growing younger, feeling better, having the energy of when you're in your 20s again, and you'll see biological function, you'll see muscle mass, you'll see brain volume and size and functionability, and all of these things coming back to your body, because your body has the ability to do it. It just needs the toxins and the waste removed, and the array of super spectacular super nutrients in natural, from extracted natural medicines in high abundance and in the right forms, and we got it, folks. That's our product. So talk about the perfect storm for success, the perfect storm to become what you used to be, what you'd love to be, and you never thought possible, is now sitting right there on your bathroom counter, and it's called the A.G.E pill. Throw some TSX behind that. Whoa! Now those telomeres won't wind down, and lifespan and energy can increase more than that. Throw in some of the triangle of life to feed the different biological systems. Whoa! It goes even faster. But the key to this, the most important single ingredient formulation on planet Earth that ever has been, is here, and it's the A.G.E pill, and we alone have it. So are you cranked out of your gourd? Is your wood on fire? If it isn't, your wood is wet if you're not on fire, because this is the big one that you've been waiting for, dreaming about, and it was a dream, it was a fantasy, it was a hope, it was a fairy tale of eternal life, of the fountain of youth, but now that is reality. It is here. We won't live forever, but I don't mind cranking on another 100 years if I live like I was at 20 again. Do you? And that possibility, I'm not saying it will, but that possibility is a very real possibility, I believe. So anyway, that's my short talk for tonight on this thing, but I'm cranked out of my gourd, and Aaron is right. I've never seen anything like this. And to be able to put it together, it's the most complex formula I've ever done. But it is breathtaking. It is astounding. And now we're seeing it happen with people, and sales are just starting to soar with it. And people, one woman sold 52 bottles, and one picked up, I think, 15 distributors in 2 days. So if you'll get to work, you can build yourself the kind of future you always dreamed of, and you can return to those days of yesteryear, where you can be functioning like you're 20 again, and life is really worth living, and you got the money coming in to make it so you can live it the way that you want to. Anyway, that's my message. Back to you, Aaron. Thanks for being on, everybody.
Well, thank you, Tom, and I think everybody, you can hear the excitement in Tom's voice. I mean, he just can't slow down on it. I asked him earlier, I said, this will be a great one that